within the swamplands of Neniwa, in the heart of the darkest of forests, dwelt a creature more terrifying than all the beasts of land or sea. With the force of its breath it could change the course of a war. With one single glance it could cripple a king, and with a simple grin it could thwart a raging army. This was no ordinary creature, you see, for this magnificent and ominous beast was a woman, bewitching and frightening sure enough, but woman through and through. She was the reigning high priestess of Neniwa, but was known as the Star Reader throughout the kingdom's other lands. There were few alive that knew her real name. Most did not know her at all. In the cold, damp darkness of her cave, Azuma knelt, eyes closed, swaying in unison with the echoes of the wind. Beneath her shins the moss grew thick, covering the glittering stone that encased her. Above, a small oblong opening in the ceiling wall allowed thin shafts of light to illuminate the cavern, fractured and tinted by an intricate window of stained glass shards, which had been crafted as a gift by her cousin Miyaka. During midday the sunlight would pour through the glass in shades of violet and gold, forming the shapes of constellations upon the cave walls. At night, beneath the light of the moon, the window's fractured light would turn deep blue and silver, and instead of stars, a mirage of ever-changing clouds would manifest within the air itself. When the moon was at its fullest, Azuma's mane of ashen curls would appear to glow and become one with the clouds of light. That night, as the enchanting display of light transitioned from stars to clouds, an owl's call interrupted the Star Reader's trance. She knew her guest would be there soon. The Lord and Lady of Velion followed Azuma's guardian through the dense forest known as Kiramor. It was the thickest brush Lord Tiernan had ever seen. When their feet were not in constant fight against vines and roots, the forest floor beneath would reveal itself in patches, thickly covered by sweet-smelling clover and clusters of speckled toadstools. At the sound of the trio's steps, worms and beetles would slither out of their beds to avoid the expedition's footfall, though many were not quite quick enough.
"What was that?"
Tiernan stopped. "What?" replied the guardian. Tiernan and Morgana stood several feet back, holding each other's white-knuckled hands. Tiernan let go and pointed at the brush to the right.
"Something crossed straight over your foot just now."
The guardian shrugged.
"A pigtoad, most likely. A bunch of young ones just left the pond a few weeks ago, not far from here." "That was no pigtoad. It was far too big."
"Ah, that's right. I forgot.
You don't get them that big back in Velion. Around here, you see, they grow as big as actual pigs, just as the name implies." Forgive me if I don't believe you."
"Suit yourself.
Doesn't bother me any."
Tiernan looked at Morgana, expecting her to chime in, but she remained silent. They continued on. "Excuse me," Morgana whispered.
"He can't hear you up there. The sound of his blade is too loud." "I can hear just fine, Lord Tiernan. Is everything okay, Lady Morgana?"
"Yes, I was just wondering how much longer it would be. My legs aren't used to this sort of trek."
"As long as we keep moving, your legs will be fine. But I won't be able to make that same promise if we stop."
The guardians set a brisk pace, effortlessly hacking away evergreen boughs as they ventured deeper through the camphorous woods. The trees grew denser and the shadows darker, until at long last the tall man was forced to light a torch. The sudden burst of flame momentarily blinded the Valish visitors. As their eyes adjusted, the forest appeared to spiral around them, stirred by the cool wind as it played an eerie symphony through the boughs of the trees. Ever forward they continued, moving as quickly as they could through the darkness. Lord Tiernan's breath grew heavy, his lungs growing tired of the stale air. Next to him, Lady Morgana sped up. The thought of oversized beasts hiding in each shadow urged her on. It grew quiet. No more bird calls, no more cricket song. As they pressed on, the trees of the forest changed. The looming evergreens became neighbored by stately oaks, and were soon replaced by the dense, moss-covered trunks of vine maples. Up ahead, Lord Tiernan and Lady Morgana could make out the swaying arms of a blooming fountain willow. A white owl flew out from the willow and let out what sounded like a warning. They were getting close. As they arrived, a single beam of moonlight poured through an opening in the treetops, illuminating the still pond that lay before them. The water glistened as if it were dancing to the sounds of the wind. The guardian turned towards the visitors and raised one finger to his lips, commanding their silence. As they came to a stop, the white owl flew overhead and vanished into the crest of the waterfall.
This way.
Tiernan and Morgana followed closely as the guardian led them over a path of wide river stones to an opening in the emerging hillside. He gestured for them to wait and ventured inside alone. The guardian ducked his head into the heart of the cave.
High Priestess, the Lord and Lady of Velion have arrived.
Yes, thank you. Bring them in, but do not stay. I would like you to wait out by the pond during their visit.
I would rather stay to ensure your safety, Azuma.
She laughed. I have nothing to fear from my old friends.
With all due respect, it is my job to fear for you. They are the leaders of my birth country, yet even I do not trust them.
Go and do as I say. The force of her command sent shivers down his spine.
As you wish.
Lord Tiernan and Lady Morgana hesitated at the entrance of Azuma's chamber. The priestess rose to her feet and smiled at them sweetly. You may enter. Tiernan took an unsure step, visibly uncomfortable with the damp confines of the chamber. Morgana sashayed around him, convincingly feigning indifference to the unpleasant surroundings. Good evening, High Priestess. Lady Morgana bowed. Azuma curtsied in turn. As she did, the colors of the stained glass window shone in through the space where her head had just been. So you have one too, Morgana mused. And here I was thinking we were the first. The first of the large globes, yes. But this globe in my window was my cousin's first venture into her glass masterpieces. It's lovely. Tiernan stood silent behind Morgana, awkwardly shifting his weight. Lord Tiernan, please sit. You will find this seat more comfortable than the rocks you stand on, she said, gesturing to a low wooden bench beside her.
Thank you, High Priestess.
Azuma is fine. She retreated a few steps and sat upon the edge of a natural shelf in the cave wall. So, what urgent matter brings the two leaders of Velion to my humble home? Lord Tiernan and I require your advice on the handling of a political affair. We've sent a letter to the king, you see. A misstep, perhaps.
It was no misstep,
Tiernan corrected. Perhaps not, Morgana conceded. But in any case, we are faced with meeting the Shadow King at our own request. Yet as it draws near, we grow weary of how it may go.
She's worried that we've angered him, and I say so be it. He has angered us for years, but I doubt he worries much about our views on that.
Azuma cleared her throat. The letter, exactly what did it say?
We told King Vincent that we were disappointed by his lack of vision, and we'd like to meet with him to discuss the endeavors he ought to pursue.
Tiernan grinned wryly.
Nothing scandalous, I assure you. All the words were true.
True, yes, but not entirely respectful of his position, I regret, Morgana amended. Azuma breathed in deeply through her nose and let out an agitated sigh through her pale lips. This is a man who killed his own brother to achieve his kingly status, and you requested a meeting with him for the purpose of questioning his authority? No, not to question it, merely to provide him with some suggestions on how to better rule. Morgana nervously picked a cobweb off her robe as she spoke. You do realize that sounds a lot like an insult.
Well, it is, Tiernan sneered. The king hasn't done anything worthwhile since the day he first sat on the throne.
And you think you could do better?
If I had the authority, I would do a lot better. That imbecile has no comprehension of what a real leader can do. And when we meet, I plan on telling him exactly that.
No, Tiernan, you can't. Morgana's voice echoed off the cave walls. They would have us killed for such irreverence. Before Tiernan had a chance to respond, Azuma stood. Lady Morgana is right. Speaking your mind to the king will do nothing for your cause.
So what should I do then? Keep biting my tongue while waiting for the day when the Ridians look to the Vaelish for an example of how to lead? I could die and be reborn 1,000 times, and I still wouldn't live to see that day. I need the power to make them see what can be done now.
Is there any way to achieve that, High Priestess? To gain more power for Velion without the risk of bloodshed? Ozma took a slow and deliberate breath before answering in a low voice. You desire more power, but you don't want to pay the price. You desire the wrong thing, my friends. Power is intangible. It is a title, a construct. When you gain power, you gain the ability to manifest your will. But that ability belongs not to you, but to the power itself. And as we know, power has a way of bending your will, of making puppets of its masters. Remember this, power can be lost. It is often dangerous, and power always corrupts. She paused to give her guests time to reflect upon her words. What you should seek is not power, but influence, and influence is a tricky thing. When too many parties have influence over those in power, the end result is a terrifying mix of chaos and stagnation. Well-wielded influence, however, can have a profound effect on the world. Morgana glanced at Tiernan and then back to the priestess. So what is it you suggest? Marriage, 4 of them in fact. Through marriage you can gain influence in your neighboring lands and grow it for generations to come. You each have 2 children. Marry one of them to a Ridian, one to a Shadesian, one to a Naexi priestess. I will help you arrange that, of course. And the 4th? She peered out through the edge of the window to the clear night sky. The 4th will be decided by fate.
I don't think you understand, Tiernan said, standing. What you're suggesting is not something we can so easily do.
Oh, why is that?
Well, to start, our people do not practice ceremonial marriages. It's against our ways.
Morgana, your father wed a Ridian in their ceremonial way, did he not? He did. And why was that? Were they so in love?
That marriage was necessary to broker a peace, Tiernan answered for her. It was part of the treaty. Otherwise, it never would have happened.
And through that marriage, not only did your people buy a decade of peace, but they also gained several years of influence in the citadel. This is one of the concessions that kept your people safe during the slave war. But now that influence has run out, and it's time to buy it back. Instead of casting your line to one sector alone, you'd be wise to cast a wide net instead. Through these marriages, your influence will take hold in several counties, and you will have their support when they are able to give it. As long as you keep your intent tightly controlled, you will be able to achieve what you want. You have the means. Now is the time to exercise your will. You have 1 moon cycle to arrange the first marriage. The rest will follow in turn each moon after that. Your children will understand in time. We'll take it under consideration, Morgana said, if that is the best path you see. It is the only path for you, Lady Morgana. All other directions bring death. Tiernan opened his mouth to protest, but Morgana cut him off. Then we will do as you advise. And what of our meeting with the king? Show him respect and courtesy, of course. Be prompt and polite. A king's ego is a delicate thing. Take care not to break it.